Number 1. Growing up, my aunt and uncle owned a beach condo. My favorite way to spend the summer was to stay there with my family, especially my cousin Charlie. We were absolutely inseparable growing up. There was a 1-year difference between us. The beach we stayed at was a very popular tourist beach on the South Carolina coast. So in the summer, it was incredibly busy. I mean, barely any room between you and the family next to you. Now, my family would spend all day on the beach, from about 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. The beach would stay crowded until about 5 p.m., and everyone would go back to their rooms to shower and go out to eat. So from around 5 to 7 every day was my favorite time to be outside. We would actually have room to run wild, build sandcastles, dig huge holes, and not have to worry about people knocking them down or being too close. Around 5:30 p.m. one day, my family decided they wanted to walk to the pier, about 2 miles away, and me and Charlie begged to stay so we could build sandcastles. We were 9 and 10 at the time, and they said we could stay as long as we didn't get in the water or leave our beach spot. The condo we stayed at was 1 row back, and we were not allowed to cross the street without adults. We agreed to our terms and continued to build a row of sandcastles as they walked away. Around 5 minutes later, an extremely tall man wearing a floppy beach hat, sunglasses, with a dollop of sunscreen on his nose came straight up to us. He started commenting on how pretty our sandcastles were, asking how long it took us to build them that high, if it was just us two working on them, which I clearly see what he was getting at with these questions now. We were both extremely introverted kids. We thanked him, kept our answers short, and tried to ignore him as he still stood there asking us questions. All of a sudden, he got really quiet, started looking around at the mostly empty beach, and said he had to go meet his friend. He told us to stay right there so he could bring his friend back to look at how great our sandcastles were, and walked away from us. When he got away at a safe distance, me and Charlie both looked at each other and said, "We've got to get out of here." We immediately started weighing our options. We knew our family wouldn't be back for at least another 30 minutes. We also knew we weren't allowed to cross the street, and quite frankly, we were scared to. About 100 yards away is a tiny ramp overlooking the ocean. I believe it was a handicap access to the beach, as well as just a place to sit. We got our big shovels and decided to hollow out under the ramp pier thing enough to where we could crawl under and not be seen. It didn't take us long, since the high tide over the years had taken out a good 3 feet of sand underneath, and our adrenaline was rushing mad fast. We took our shovels inside and crawled under. The man was still yet to be seen. I assume it took us all of 8 minutes to climb under the pier. Our heads were partially visible above the sand horizon, and we started freaking out, thinking he would be able to spot us if he looked hard enough. There were 2 boogie boards lying about 50 yards away that looked like kids had abandoned on the beach. We grabbed them and propped them up against the ramp, covering our crawl space and the top of our heads from sight. Charlie curled up in a ball and cried while running scenarios by me that we were definitely going to be taken. I tried to calm him down and say everything was going to be okay. Our parents would be back soon. But I definitely felt like crying myself. The whole thing felt so weird. I feel that since we both had such a bad feeling about the situation, especially at a young age, this was a man with sinister intentions. Charles and I peeked out of the small slits where the boogie boards curved and eventually saw the man walking back. He didn't have anyone with him, which we definitely thought he would, since he said he was bringing back a friend. He saw we were gone, turned around several times, checking to see if we were in the ocean or up by the dunes. Once he realized, and thankfully didn't notice us there, we were gone, he got extremely angry, noticeably angry. He started huffing and puffing, stomping around. Then he looked at our sandcastles and kicked all of them down. We built a ton over the course of the day, and basically had a long wall of them, and he kicked every single mound down and stormed away. We stayed under the ramp pier thing for 45 more minutes until our family finally got back. We were way too scared to get out, especially after seeing his irrational reaction. We cried and told our family what had happened, and they didn't believe us. We still talk about it sometimes at family gatherings or holidays. Both of us still remember it like it was yesterday. Seriously, I'm so glad we were aware kids who thought quickly. Number 2. This happened last summer while studying abroad in Argentina for a semester. I was with 6 other girls from my host university. We had left our respective apartments in Buenos Aires and taken a bus to Mendoza in the west, known for beautiful scenery and great wine. Our second day at the hostel, we decided to do a hike in the Andean foothills close-ish to where we were staying at a place called Cerro Arco. We opted not to do a guided tour since it was expensive and we were pretty low on pesos. Plus, who needs a guide if you can do it yourself, right? Wrong. We took a bus as far as we could from the city to the outskirts of town and figured we'd just ask locals where we needed to go, having been told it wasn't far from the last stop of that bus's route. In retrospect, we should have already been clued into the weirdness of this situation because the locals we asked on the bus, including the bus driver, claimed they didn't know how to get to Cerro Arco. And I know now that this is a popular hiking spot, so most people should have known at least the general direction. Regardless, after setting out from the end of the route bus stop, which was really just an unmarked spot on a hill, we wandered until we found a woman who pointed us where to go, remarking as we thanked her, "Be careful, don't walk down that road after dark. It's not safe for a bunch of young girls." We had about 5 or so hours until dark. This was during the winter, and it got dark early, so no one was particularly worried, and we walked down the dusty and deserted road towards the trail. We walked a kilometer or so and didn't seem anywhere near a hiking trail, just continuously walking down some sort of rural highway with low mountains looming far in the distance. This was not the beautiful Andean hiking experience we'd been promised, so we stopped at a rundown gas station to ask if this was genuinely the right way to go. This is when things got weird fast. The gas station didn't seem to have any gas pumps, so I remained unconvinced, was run by an older man. We asked for directions, and upon leaving, he asked if we wanted a ride part of the way there from his son, who was going down there anyway. It turned out we still had a good deal of highway to walk down, but we declined, having decided we were going to do this on our own, and willing to do a shorter hike to make it back before dark. The son had appeared shortly upon our arrival into the store and leered at us from behind the counter the whole time we spoke to his dad. We had walked about 10 minutes when we hear a car behind us. The son clearly hadn't taken our polite no for an answer and was coming to convince us that we should ride with him. The hour or so that followed was profoundly nerve-wracking and made me swear I'd never travel with only girls again while abroad. Physically, I'm exotic looking to many Argentines. I'm very tall. I towered over most Argentine dudes with long red hair. This man seemed to latch onto that right away.
"My, what hair you have,"
he said, like some twisted version of Little Red Riding Hood.
"I'd love to touch it."
He was hanging out of his crappy old truck with the 6 of us on the very edge of the highway, hugging the safety rail, trying to keep our distance. He kept calling me Mi Flaca, a cutesy nickname as if we weren't total strangers, and wouldn't take his eyes off of me. My Spanish is good, but I froze in the weirdness of this situation and just stared at the ground without speaking.
I can take you up to where the trail starts.
He kept saying.
I'm a good guy. I'll let you ride for free.
My friends, who must have no sense of self-preservation, at first shrugged and seemed willing to take him up on his offer, even though we had agreed not to just minutes before. No way, I'm not going, I said. We talked amongst ourselves until they finally agreed that this was probably not safe, and told him firmly that we weren't interested. He whispered some things to himself and to us to freak us out. I couldn't hear what he was saying, then shrugged and drove off a side road. I was a little shaken up because of the intensity of the way he stared at me and how he literally licked his lips when talking about my hair, but figured it would be fine. We kept walking, keeping the mountains on the horizon in our sights. Not even 5 minutes later, I heard the same clanking truck sound from behind us. My heart sank. He pulled up, even closer to us this time, and seemed angry now.
I'm a good man. I'm a family man. I'm not going to rape you.
Who says that, if not a rapist? He looked over at me again and sighed loudly.
You make me want to come out of this truck, standing there with that hair.
He then leaned out and offered us some kind of herb to chew that supposedly helped with altitude sickness, which none of us accepted. He was now visibly angry and would drive a while in front of us to seem like he was finally leaving, and then abruptly stomp on the brakes and laugh as we jumped in shock. There was still nobody on the road, and we had no idea how far away this stupid trail really was. One more time he drove off, several of us now on the verge of tears. Then he came back, the clanking engine sound announcing his return. This time, he literally parked the truck, lunged out, and pursued us on foot. We took off, scrambling in the middle of this godforsaken rural highway, hearing his angry, maniacal laughter behind us. He gave up at some point, but we kept booking it until eventually the road forked and a dusty campsite came into view. There were lots of hikers, a small hostel, and several dogs, so we knew we were safe. We sat and regained our composure. I was literally shaking, and some of the other girls were crying. Some of the hikers spoke to us, and a few reiterated that we shouldn't have been walking by ourselves, though it was clearly a popular hiking location. We did an abridged hike, waited for a giant group of South Africans to leave, heading towards the same hostel, and found a bus that left from a spot much closer to the trail than the one that had dropped us off. In retrospect, one man would have struggled to kidnap, hurt 6 girls, but his fixation with my hair and general crazy demeanor made me deeply regret that hike. Argentina was a wonderful experience, and I never once felt unsafe in the city of Buenos Aires, but I hope I never come across the rural man who wouldn't take no for an answer on that deserted mountain road in Cerro Arco. Number 3. My story begins nearly 10 years ago when I was 14. My best friend and I had gone on holiday with her family to a little caravan park in the UK. The park also had a pool, club, pub, arcade, etc. All the normal stuff. So my friend and I, both females, were hanging around in the evenings, playing some pool with a few friends we'd made and sitting with her family in the club, watching the entertainment, and we noticed a guy. Middle-aged, normal-looking guy, with glasses. He was always on his own, but we never thought anything of it. There didn't seem to be anything weird about him at first at all. One night, he even leaned against a wall while we played pool, watching us, and although he never said anything, he had a little laugh when we were dicking around. Still, nothing weird entered our minds. On one of the last days of our week on holiday, my friend's family had gone swimming, and my friend and I stayed behind at the caravan, and we decided to take a walk up to the swimming pool in our PJs, being the quirky little girls we were. Naively, our PJs were kind of like vest tops, in little knicker shorts that we had bought for the holiday, so they were a little revealing. But it was hot, and there were girls in shorts all over the place, so we didn't feel too exposed. The swimming pool was next to a little cafe area, and we got a cup of tea there. There was this guy again, and this was the first time either of us actually said anything to each other about it. We had a little whisper to each other about how we had seen this guy a few times, and he was always on his own, which was weird at a family, kid-friendly caravan park. We kept looking up, and he was definitely looking over at us, although we tried not to make it obvious we were aware. Still, not worrying too much, we got up and walked over to my friend's family. There, we talked more about how this guy always seemed to be where we were in the park at night. If we were outside on the park, he was there. In the arcade, he was there. Or in the club, he was there. Talking about it more made us realize he had actually been watching us the whole time we'd been on holiday. What about when we hadn't noticed him? Was he still there? We told my friend's mom, and she agreed it was weird. We told her that he was in the cafe just as we were, and we looked over towards the cafe. He was still there and was now really obviously leaning back in his chair, staring at us, and didn't look away when all three of us saw him. He had tilted his chair back on its back legs just to get a good look. It looked like he left after a while. We got my friend's mom to check the cafe, and she couldn't see him, so we decided to go back to the caravan and get some more clothes on. This was not a long walk, but thinking back, we really shouldn't have gone on our own. On our way back, we were talking about it all, and about halfway into our journey, one of the friends we had met was walking towards us. We said hi to him, and as he passed us, I turned around to say something else to him, and I saw that maybe 20 feet back from us was the guy. He followed us. I told my friend, and she turned around too and saw him, and we both ran as fast as we could back to the caravan and locked the door. I don't know if he ran too, and I don't know if he saw where we went, but we locked the door and called my friend's mom. Her family came to the caravan pretty quick, and we were pretty spooked. We didn't want to go out that night, but it was our last night, and we wanted to enjoy our last night on holiday. We were in the arcade again, and we told some of our new friends about the guy so they could keep an eye out for him too. I went to get some change out of one of those machines, and when I bent down to grab it, he was there. I ran, grabbed my friend, and took her to her family in the next room, the pub area. He followed us in, and he sat at the bar staring at us. Her mom got up and told the security guard about this guy, and then she came back and told us that we had to go get up and walk right past him out of the bar so the security guard could see what he was doing. This was terrifying us, but we did it and tried to act cool. He eyeballed us all the way out, and as soon as we passed him, he got up to follow us. Thank God, the security guard was watching this as he stopped the guy straight away and kicked him out of the park entirely. If we had not noticed this guy watching us, he was willing to follow two 14-year-old girls on their own. What was he going to do? If I had not seen our friend on our walk back and turned around and seen the guy, would he have followed us into our caravan? CreepyMina here of the Worst Nightmare channel. I hope you enjoyed those 3 stories of women experiencing creepy encounters while on vacation, or as they say in the UK, on holiday, and one girl trying to have some relaxing time while studying abroad in Argentina. Have you ever had a creepy encounter while on vacation? If so, leave a comment below about that. Leave any comment. Love to hear from you. And I've received a couple of subscriber submissions. I'd love to receive more. Please send your creepy stories or paranormal stories to creepymina@gmail.com. Please share this video on your favorite social networking platform, such as retweeting it, as it will help this channel to grow. And don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Follow me on Twitter as WorstNightmare6 for advance notice of all uploaded videos, and please remember to stay safe.